the number 10 quarterback of all time, Steve Young.
What are we starting with?
Steve Young was almost like a unicorn, really. He was fast. He was accurate.
The coverage was there. The ball had to be perfect. It was.
He could throw deep, and he was left-handed.
Young throws downfield. Jerry Rice. He's done it.
Steve Young definitely deserves a spot in the top 10 of all time.
Number one, six.
Let's have some fun here, Steve Young. Let's have some fun.
Worse than driving on Lombard Street, our number 10 QB had a rough go-around replacing a legend.
Growing up in San Francisco, this was Joe Montana City. They didn't want to accept Steve Young.
Young responded with record-breaking play, setting league marks for most consecutive passing titles with 4, as well as the highest career completion percentage and passer rating.
Young has been absolutely perfect.
He was by far the highest rated quarterback before 2000.
I gotta go to work.
Nobody has led the league in passer rating that many times. He led it 6 times in 7 years.
Woo! Big game. Big time. I had to play that field kind of early.
He would not be truly accepted in the fans' hearts until he won the big game.
Young blew away the doubters with a historic performance in Super Bowl 29.
Young goes deep middle. He's got Jerry Rice. Touchdown 49ers. Young quick pass left flat. Ricky Watters. Touchdown 49ers. Young slant in. Jerry Rice another touchdown. Steve Young is now number 1 all time with 6 touchdown passes.
The quintessential Steve Young play, it's got to be his run versus the Vikings. Everyone says that for a reason. It's insane.
In trouble. He's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again, to the 35, cuts back at the 30, to the 20, the 50, the 10. He dives. Touchdown 49ers.
For Steve Young to fill those shoes and to make those shoes his own, I think is reason enough for him to be on this list.
I think 10's too low.
He should be in the top 5 on this list.
Hey, Coach, I'm way better.
I've covered Steve Young as a writer, and he's one of my favorite athletes of all time. You could probably take him off.
Ignore him. Ignore him.
I like Steve Young a lot. I'm not sure that I put him in the top 10.
He sucks.
I don't think Steve Young should be on this list. I don't think he did it for a long enough time.
I'm a Niner fan, so I just have to say this. I will fist fight.
The number 9 quarterback of all time, Roger Staubach.
He is the all-American guy.
The alter ego of a guy like Joe Namath.
You know, I enjoy sex as much as Joe Namath. Only I do it with one girl.
He did so much for the Cowboys. Started off their dynasty with Landry.
Roger Staubach's one of the few quarterbacks that you could drop into pro football. Right now, just boop, and he'd be Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck put together.
Got to be an all-day affair. Play together all day long. Let's go.
Even if you weren't a Cowboy fan, how could you root against Roger Staubach?
I grew up a Giants fan. I hated watching that guy.
Here's a guy that did it after he did his military service. He came back after that and still was a badass.
The longest pass play of the year for Roger Staubach.
Imagine what he would have done if he hadn't have done the Navy.
Our number 9 quarterback did plenty in his 9 years as the Cowboys starter, earning 6 Pro Bowl berths and a cool nickname.
He was incredibly athletic. Roger the Dodger, able to escape pressure.
Got away from one, got away twice.
The Roger the Dodger thing was very real. But do you think people realize that he led the league in passing 4 times? When he retired, he went out as the highest rated passer in the history of professional football.
And a beautiful pinpoint pass by Roger Staubach. Leading Dallas to 2 Super Bowl titles, Staubach made the Cowboys a national sensation.
The Dallas Cowboys. They were called America's team, and he was Captain America.
We felt he was bigger than life. Got more out of the players he was playing with than anybody else. And that's another leadership quality, where you get guys to perform up and above where they're normally capable of performing.
His one-loss record as a Cowboy starter was 95-35.
23 times he engineered fourth-quarter comeback victories.
As a young 49er fan, watching in 1972, Roger Staubach is down 11 points at the 2-minute warning and somehow wins that game.
The throw is into the end
Touchdown! The Cowboys have wrestled away the lead.
Sickening.
Well, the Cowboys need a miracle.
Thank heavens for Roger Staubach. He gave us a little old-time religion and gave us a play that we still remember.
Pumps and watch. He's going long.
When I threw in the forward pass, I closed my eyes and said Hail Mary.
Pearson makes the catch at the 5. Touchdown! Once you believe it.
Based on the era he played in, the competition he faced, some of the greatest football teams in history.
It took an alliance of a truly great Pittsburgh Steelers team and the clock to defeat the Dallas Cowboys.
I would move Staubach up.
And I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a Giant fan. He's a top 5 guy for me.
The number 8 quarterback of all time, Brett Favre.
Brett Favre was must-see TV.
Instant excitement.
He's also one of the funniest guys in NFL history, so that helps.
Hey, you got any left-handed footballs?
He definitely needs to be higher than 8. I don't know who made this list.
I think he's one of the most overrated players in the history of sports.
That's awful.
Favre was a guy who could do calculus, but he couldn't always add or subtract.
It was sort of like a reckless abandon in the way he played.
Touchdown for Brett Favre.
As a Chicago Bears fan, I had to suffer through many seasons of him putting us through absolute hell.
He's going to go for the touchdown.
I hate him. I just hate him.
Once again, let's have a little fun. Let's try to get it in the end zone early.
Brett Favre landed at number 8 on our list with some of the biggest numbers ever. He retired as the league's all-time leader in pass completions, yards, and touchdowns.
Right between 2 defenders.
Who can throw it better than Brett Favre?
And he did it all with his own unique style.
Just the way they drew it up, huh, fellas?
If we were playing backyard football, he'd be number 1 on everybody's list.
Brett Favre creates plays.
He was definitely the only person that was taking the X's and O's and, like, going off playbook.
Brett was fun.
And Darrell Thompson is tackled by Brett Favre.
Brett Favre is a hating mother. Quarterbacks weren't supposed to get smacked around and get up and talk trash to guys.
Who hit me?
Brett wasn't worried about that at all. In fact, for him, smacking him around might have been the worst thing you could do.
That was you hit me. I thought you hit harder than that.
He probably smells like leather and America. He belongs in Wranglers.
I'm a big fan of his, though. I mean, that kid's tough, man. Brett Favre was awfully good.
Favre won a Super Bowl and 3 league MVP awards, but his most impressive number may be his record 299 consecutive games.
Suck it up now. Let's suck it up.
Part of what separates him is the fact that that guy took such a beating. Most sacked man in NFL history, and he hasn't missed a game.
Shit, my dude's right there, didn't I? Yeah, you did.
Coachable to a point, but you're never going to coach Brett Favre out of being Brett Favre.
No more rocket balls, please.
Well, I was teamed up.
No, I know.
I'm not sure if you can put a quarterback in the top 10 all time who has some game-defining interceptions as he had in the postseason. The pick in the NFC Championship game against the Giants, and his interception with Minnesota having a chance to knock off New Orleans.
Intercepted. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
Live by the Favre, die by the Favre.
Favre at 8. That seems low. That seems a little low.
That may be too low.
He's got to be in the discussion because he won 3 MVPs.
I think number 8 is a true testament to his longevity, his toughness.
For me, I like a guy who makes a little less mistakes than Brett Favre if you're going to be a top 7, top 8 guy.
The number 7 quarterback of all time, Dan Marino.
Just from a pure quarterbacking standpoint, if you were to draw the prototype, it's probably Dan Marino. He's what you want a quarterback to look and function like.
Marino, deep drop, throwing deep upfield, down the near side, man open, touchdown!
Dan Marino is once-in-a-lifetime talent. He had this massive arm, the quickest release.
Plus, Dan was cool. He had the hair, he had the tan.
Just always looked like he came off the beach to throw a touchdown.
Marino had the 2-minute magic that ranked right with the great Montana and Elway.
30 seconds to go. I believe Marino is saying I'm going to spike it.
Marino, he throws it. Touchdown, Dolphins!
Flame burns inside that man, Dan Marino.
I would say Dan Marino isn't just in the top 10 when it comes to quarterbacks. I'd say he's in the top 10 when it comes to actors, and I'm talking about all time.
He's the one you want. Kill him.
No, kill him.
No, kill him.
Kill him.
He held the ball, remember?
You look at his work in Pet Detective, and you look at sort of how he dug deep to come up with that character.
Try, baby, jock, wimp.
It was such a moving performance.
Suddenly, at 22 years of age, Dan Marino was asked to bear the responsibility of reviving the dormant Miami offense.
He was great instantly. He stepped on the field great.
He was probably the best young quarterback we've ever seen. And his 1984 season is probably the best ever.
It's unbelievable to think that he was throwing for 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns in 1984.
Here's Marino, wide open field, throws for a touchdown, and there's the record. He has thrown his 37th touchdown pass for the season.
Can you imagine the numbers Dan Marino would have put up in today's NFL? It's insane. I mean, he was a real-life video game.
Yeah, he has that magical MVP year, and we go to the Super Bowl, and I thought we were going to go every other year.
Young Dan Marino, in his first Super Bowl, will be a loss.
They go from the Super Bowl to the AFC Championship game of the next year in '85 to missing the playoffs for 4 straight years. You know, that hurts Marino's legacy big time.
In those first 10 years, the Dolphins' offense under Marino was one of the best in NFL history, but their defense was also one of the worst. No quarterback, not Tom Brady, not Joe Montana, was going to win a Super Bowl with those defenses he had to play with in Miami.
Dan Marino must have a fishbowl of indigestion trapped in his chest when he stops and thinks, wait, Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson have Super Bowl rings and I don't?
That's one feeling I don't have. What is it like to walk off the field and win that Super Bowl? I have no regrets, but that's the one thing that I never accomplished.
He was so spectacular, it doesn't matter if he has rings or not. He was just great.
The number 6 quarterback of all time, John Elway.
Yeah, John Elway's number 1. Show's over. Next question.
He's not number 1 on our list.
Well, it's a stupid list.
Yeah.
John Elway. He is the statue of David of quarterbacks.
Size, arm strength,
Was a rich guy with his fastball.
mobility,
And he'll run.
perfect quarterback.
To me, it's about the heart. It's about the desire.
Throw the Hail Mary here with 6 seconds to go. Elway steps up in the pocket. Here goes the pass. Rod Smith up. He got it.
If you talk about wins, productivity, he had it.
The Broncos are world champions.
He did it all.
You ready for a heater?
He just had that, that rocket for an arm.
John Elway threw that ball a long way. Boy, he did. He just cocked the arm and let it go.
I've never seen a guy move that kind of arm in my life.
You think of the arm, but that's a guy who could score the football on the ground.
It always looked like he was playing in a highlight reel where the spotlight was on him. He just looked shinier, brighter than all the other players.
Elway scrambles away and he'll run. He's up, passes on the move. Touchdown, Jackson.
The quintessential John Elway play to me is making something out of nothing. A defender's got his jersey in his hand and rips it 35, 40 yards downfield.
Elway was submerged, jumps up, and throws a strike to Shannon Sharpe.
You know who's not a big fan of John Elway? Cleveland.
And the Broncos are 98 yards away from where they need to go. Come on, Johnny! 42 seconds to go. Elway. The look, the throw, touchdown to Mark Jackson. And the Broncos have gone 98 yards.
Throughout the 80s, we remember him as the guy who got embarrassed in Super Bowls. It's the guy who couldn't get it done.
After 3 Super Bowl defeats, comes back to fight for 2 Super Bowl wins to cap out his career. That's like storybook.
Head first, he dives! This one's for John. The MVP of Super Bowl 33 is John Elway.
Yeah, John Elway. First, I think he probably shouldn't be on the list.
I have to ask, what have you been watching?
He had a lower career passer rating than Jeff George.
Dude went to 5 Super Bowls. I would argue 3 of them by himself.
His record when behind in the fourth quarter is actually no better than Dan Marino or Peyton Manning.
John Elway should not be number 6 on your list. He should be way up there. Number 1, 2, or 3.
The The number 5 quarterback of all time, Otto Graham.
Otto Graham! I love that he's on here.
Otto the Great is in magnificent form today.
How is Otto Graham number 5 on this list? They won. It's hard to argue against winning.
You're only as good as your time and your peers, and he dominated his era.
He was an outstanding quarterback in any era.
The aerial-minded Otto Graham begins filling the air with passes.
When we have conversations around the dinner table, who's the best quarterback of all time, my dad's always quick to just casually drop an Otto Graham reference and then, go into the living room or something.
I know what to do with this.
Our number 5 quarterback wore 2 numbers, 60 and 14. The biggest throwback on our list, Otto Graham, was All-League 9 of his 10 years with the Browns in the 1940s and 50s and helped transform pro football.
Modern quarterbacking dates back to what Otto Graham did for those Browns. He was the first guy to take dropbacks and to be throwing to wide receivers who are running pattern combinations to get open.
One of the things about guys that played in that generation like Otto Graham is that defensive backs could mug guys. Windows now, quarterbacks throwing in are like this. Their windows then were like this. And they were getting hit in the head and stomped and punched. And refs would just sit there like, hey, too bad, man.
The 1950 championship, he beat up the Rams, threw for 4 touchdowns.
The West Coast Rams are learning firsthand about the amazing talents of Otto Graham.
And that was a totally revolutionary concept.
Otto was really the greatest of all the players. No man ever took a team into the final game of the season as many times as he did.
By far, the man on whom the Browns' hopes are pinned is number 14, Otto Graham.
One of the great dynasties those Browns, this sport, has ever known.
In 4 years in the All-America Conference, they won the championship 4 times and even went through the 1948 campaign undefeated.
People forget about Otto Graham because he played so long ago, but to lead a team to 10 consecutive championship games and win 7 of them is amazing.
This is Graham's big day, and what a game he's playing.
Otto Graham played in that game every year for 10 years. He won 7 of them. The guy never missed a game. Automatic Otto.
I think players were, bakers, and they worked in the town.
Otto Graham was a magnificent quarterback and certainly deserving of his place on the top 10.
Otto Graham is living up to his magnificent billing today.
They weren't all full-time football players, and he shouldn't even be on the top 10. To have him above Brett Favre is criminal.
Absolutely one of the guys that deserves to be on top 5.
He was a winner, he was tough, he was everything you want to see in a quarterback, a great leader, and one of the all-time greats.
The number 4 quarterback of all time, Johnny Unitas.
Vice President Nixon is among the jam-packed crowd with eyes on Johnny Unitas, the great Colt quarterback.
He was beyond just being great. He was a piece of mythology.
Well, Johnny Unitas soon has the Colt touchdown stampede in full swing.
This crew-cut, single face mask, black and white character.
Unitas makes it look easy.
Johnny Unitas redefined the position.
This guy created the modern quarterback swashbuckler. I mean, he was John Wayne on the football field.
Johnny's pass is perfectly placed.
He took games that seemed like they were lost and turned them into victories somehow.
Now there are 8 seconds remaining. Unitas stays in the pocket, waits until Jimmy Orr breaks free in the corner. Orr scores the winning touchdown.
He invented the 2-minute drill. Nobody had seen that before the 58 championship game.
With only a minute left, Unitas throws to Raymond Berry.
The defining quarterback performance in NFL history.
Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions.
Marks the point from when nobody paid attention to the NFL to where it, within 10 years, had overtaken baseball as the national pastime and been the best sport in the country. That's Johnny U with that game.
I've never seen a greater job in any football game, pro or college, in my life, John. It was just stupendous.
Thank you very much, Chuck.
John Unitas has passed for more touchdowns and more yardage than any quarterback in history.
Johnny Unitas put up offensive numbers in an era that was completely defensive and run-oriented. John Unitas once led the league in passing touchdowns with 19.
That's how few touchdowns were being thrown. That's how few passes were being thrown.
Unitas keeps his touchdown record going as he hits Raymond Berry in the end zone.
Here's a guy who held a real consecutive game touchdown record, unlike the liberalized passing rule version that Drew Brees has.
Drew Brees passes Johnny Unitas.
I think the hardest thing to do is compare a 1950-style passer to what's going on in the NFL now.
All the stats are different now. Phil Rivers, people think he's a good quarterback.
He's just a little turd.
Unitas had to play with a ball that had, spikes coming out of it, and on a field that was just a manure patch.
The Colts quarterbacks. You have the succession of guys, Peyton Manning and now Andrew Luck. Johnny Unitas is a forgotten man. That's kind of screwed up.
I can't abide Johnny Unitas not being number one. He just did it down in and down out for so long.
I'm in Baltimore. There's a beautiful statue of Johnny Unitas there. They'll never take that away. But I don't think he was number one. I think 4 is probably the right number.
Peyton Manning said, it's appropriate I wear 18. I'm one less than Johnny Unitas.
Number 3 quarterback of all time, Peyton Manning.
No one has ever had a greater mastery of the position than Peyton Manning. From calling plays
Round right, pistol,
to checking out of plays.
54.
Studying so much that he knew more than coaches probably, to executing an offense.
I wish he'd come up with a different slogan in Omaha.
Omaha! Omaha!
Hearing him call Omaha so much is annoying.
Omaha!
Any other city. Pick a better city.
Omaha, Omaha, oh my gosh.
He put up such video game numbers. Every week it was 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns.
Peyton, 6 touchdown game.
That dude hasn't completed one pass. Peyton Manning's 7th touchdown pass.
If there's a Mount Rushmore of fantasy football, Peyton Manning's on it, and he's the only quarterback that's on it.
Peyton Manning might have a record for how many NFL records he holds.
Peyton throws, and there's the record. Peyton Manning's 51st touchdown pass of the year as the most touchdown passes, most passing yards in NFL history.
Haters always say Peyton Manning is the best regular season quarterback of all time. That's like my wife saying I'm the best foreplay lover of all time. It's disrespectful.
Manning's playoff record, to me, really discredits him. Record number of one and dones.
He's had some great games. This is obviously not one of them.
When the Colts finally won the Super Bowl with Manning in 2006 season, they had the worst run defense of the modern era.
They're not stopping the run. This defensive line for the Colts.
So he carried that team through.
This man comes back after 55 neck surgeries. He's like 64 years old, and he wins a Super Bowl?
The Denver Broncos are world champions.
I think the 2nd Super Bowl ring definitely helped him.
What an amazing way to end his career.
That last season, I wouldn't want to go out on that. He won the Super Bowl. No, he didn't. Brock Osweiler did.
One of the most versatile and best actors in the quarterback history. I have to go with Peyton.
We get good ratings for ABC tonight. It's better than Desperate Housewives.
He could pitch anything. He could probably sell machetes. You know what I mean? He's like, no, hey, if you're a warlord in Africa, this is you want the Johnson machete.
Peyton Manning at number 3, I think it's hard to argue with.
Number 3 on the list is generous, and you know you're only doing it because he just retired.
I have Manning in the top 5,
but 3 is aggressive.
This is one of the all-time greats, like the living embodiment of everything you would ever want in a football player and a quarterback. And yes, 3 is entirely appropriate.
The number 2 quarterback of all time, Tom Brady.
He's at number 2?
What?
That sucks.
Brady's at 2. You think that he's number 2?
So many people in Boston are not doing something violent because you guys did that.
Handsome, rich, the best quarterback in football.
Tell me what you're looking for.
in terms of a top quarterback. You want stats? Brady's got stats.
Tom Brady, touchdown pass number 50, an NFL record.
You want Super Bowl wins? He's got as many as anybody.
A fourth Lombardi trophy is headed to one Patriot place.
You want a good-looking wife? He's got that. Tell me what you want to be the best quarterback ever, and Tom Brady has it.
Here we go, from the top.
If you're young enough, you could be like, oh, they based Steve Rogers off Tom Brady. This is like Captain America before the super serum.
A 6th-round pick in the 2000 draft.
You just want to throw so you can get on TV, huh?
Yeah.
Tom Brady got our 2 slot by becoming an NFL superhero. A 2-time league MVP, Brady ranks among the top 5 all-time in passing yards, completions, and touchdowns.
Touchdown! And the Patriots win in overtime! What the hell is the way to go, brother? Way to go!
He wins year after year with this revolving door cast of receivers and people around him.
It's kind of just like a laundry list of owls. You're just like, who?
We're going to make some plays.
When you have Tom Brady, it doesn't matter who else you have. He's gonna crush it.
We need a big championship drive. That's what we need.
Brady has won some 200 games and counting in the regular season, but the postseason is where he's become a legend.
Tom Brady just won't quit.
He's broken every playoff record, most games, most yards, most touchdowns. He's played in 6 Super Bowls.
Fires back to the end zone. Touchdown, New England!
What do you tell your family? Like, just let you guys know, don't plan any vacations till February, because January, I'm busy.
He's a great person for New England to root for, and he's a great person for everybody else in the country to root against.
Tom Brady, overrated.
I love the Tom Brady haters. Yeah, I guess I'll bring up Deflategate.
Tom has a slightly smaller grip, so they needed to deflate it.
They cheated most of his career, and they got caught. I'm not saying anything that's my opinion. You can't have him number 2 when you know that team cheated and you know he cheated.
On the field and on our list, Tom Brady and the Mannings share a storied rivalry.
Peyton Manning should be number 2, not Tom Brady. Manning's done it with different teams, different head coaches.
I'm just happy Manning's behind Brady on this list. That warms every Patriots fan's heart.
It's about respect!
Tom Brady should be number 1 on every list. Great American list, most defined cheekbone list, makes Uggs cool list.
This is top 10 quarterbacks. It should be Brady.
I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud because a lot of people would have Brady at number 1.
Brady.
But Brady is not the best quarterback of all time. He wasn't flawless when it mattered most.
Brady. You get it.
Best ever.
You look at what he did for that franchise, and that alone, I think, vaults him into the top 2.
God, ever.
The number 1 quarterback of all time, Joe Montana.
I grew up in Denver as a 49ers fan. This was every argument during recess. Kids throwing rocks saying that Elway was better than Montana. Hey, everybody, in the 5280, number 1, Joe Montana.
For sure, hands down, like, Joe Montana was the man.
It was a perfect throw by Joe Montana.
There's nothing like Joe Montana.
Just complete control of the offense.
He's the best. The best.
Joe Montana, I'll say he is the best who's ever played the game.
I love Joe Montana. Some believe Joe Montana was born during a lightning storm, and his real father is Zeus, the Greek god, who gave him his arm and his perfect touch.
Joe Montana, for me growing up, was my first introduction into greatness.
The performance by Joe Montana was just almost unbelievable.
The city of San Francisco had never won a professional sports championship. The 49ers were constantly a team that broke people's hearts.
17 points in that fourth quarter, my friend, for the Cowboys is what did the trick.
And now a kid named Joe Montana comes out of Notre Dame and magically takes charge of a dynasty.
He throws into the end zone. Touchdown! It'll be their 4th Super Bowl championship.
The team of the decade.
Just taking a look at him, he wouldn't look like he'd be a great quarterback for some reason.
34 years to get this development.
Walsh didn't care about his arm. He said he had the feet of a ballerina.
There are so many plays
the active, mobile, quick-footed quarterback could make. An absolute artist. It was almost sensuous in his movement.
Montana could throw on the move with great accuracy. He could also run. In his younger days, he would scramble for first downs.
3rd down and 7 now. Montana slips and slides. He does it well. He'll get the first down. Yeah. More. Yeah.
No one had his level of awareness. He had 4 eyes. I mean, he absolutely had the 2 in their normal spot, and then these 2 back here that somehow appeared outside his helmet, because the guy could see everything and feel everything.
How in the world did he ever get away from all those arms and legs?
We've opened the door. We're going to go through it next week, and we're going to kick ass and take no prisoners.
He's just the dude. He's the dude that you want leading your team. He's the dude you want to go to a party with. He's Joe Cool.
Watch him, and he's so cool about it.
Joe Cool was the guy who was never flustered. There was nothing too big for him.
49ers will have a chance to throw one. Here's Montana throwing for the end zone. Right late. He's got it.
Joe Montana was at his best when you needed him the most. He was Joe Cool for a reason.
49ers trail. Montana on the rollout to the right side. Finally fires in the end zone. Clark, touchdown.
He was really great in the playoffs. You can make a real strong case that Montana was the best postseason quarterback in NFL history.
Here's Montana throwing toward the end zone. Caught in the run by Cooper. He's got it. He's in the end zone. A 49er touchdown.
What quarterback in the Super Bowl doesn't throw any interceptions?
To make it look this easy, I wonder what it feels like inside.
You think Niners versus Bengals Super Bowl.
The 49ers will start deep in their own end.
39 seconds to go. Montana. Touchdown. John Taylor. San Francisco has won Super Bowl 23. They got Joe.
As a member of the Chiefs, too, they beat some really good teams in the playoffs.
Back to pass, Joe Montana. Looks right. Arches a pass. Into the end zone. Touchdown. Hey! Montana Magic is back.
People forget, he did get to an AFC Championship game with the Chiefs.
He is number 1. There is no question Joe Montana is number 1.
And if you have Joe Montana number 1, how are you going to argue that? Really, how are you going to argue that?